people that do not go to the gym or have like a healthy lifestyle are lazy. So far from beyond what I actually live.
I work 14-hour days and I still manage to go to the gym. It'll take a toll on my sleep sometimes, but I have to be willing to take accountability and say, I was lazy at this.
I know a lot of fat folks in my sphere like to reclaim the word fat instead of using words like morbid or obese. They prefer the word fat, and I prefer the word fat because it describes what I am, not a category that doctors are putting me in to describe how sick I am.
Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm your host, Ryan. On this side, we have gym-goers, and on this side, we have supporters of body acceptance. Being fat or skinny is a choice. We'll start by having people that agree come up now.
So I was a wrestler my whole life, constantly dieting my whole entire life. I mean, at this point now, I'm not wrestling anymore, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But I think it just comes down to the fact of it's just a calorie deficit. You want to consume less than what you're burning. Some people might have it easier. I'm not saying that, like some people might find it harder to lose weight, some people might find it easier.
In your experience with the wrestling thing, did you always lose weight when you went into a calorie deficit, or was it different each time?
100%, and it might have been, a little too extreme to where it got to the point where it might have been a little unhealthy. But, at the end of the day, I was losing weight, and it could have been because I had a better metabolism than some people. I could have had an easier route, but at the same time, I mean, anybody can lose weight if you just put your mind to it.
Okay, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely a choice. Excluding all the rarities, thyroid conditions, things like that come up. In general, I definitely think that it's everyone's personal choice. Some people do have it harder. I myself, I have a really hard time gaining weight. Super easy for me to kind of drop weight, slim down. But if you're trying to pack on muscle, I feel like I'm eating nonstop constantly.
Yeah, I mean, how much are you eating per day? Is it a lot?
I don't count my calories. I just have a rule: if my stomach doesn't feel full, I have to eat.
Okay, fair. And how about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with the majority of what you've said, that you can change your diet and really control what your weight does. I've watched it happen with my own body over the course of my life. I shared my office with a nutritionist for a year and listened to him talk about things. And, it is very true. You can control that. And there are different genetic effects that can have a play on things, or different conditions that people might have, like you mentioned. But I think we have to also mention the way that our food system is structured right now. Our food system is designed to keep people unhealthy and to keep people fat and overweight, and to try and make people sick and put them into the medical system, where then they can fall into the insurance system. We have a system that is stacked against people being healthy. If you look at what people looked like with what they were eating when they ate whole foods, 7,500 years ago, maybe even less. I think it really started after World War II, when they learned how to prepackage foods with a bunch of preservatives to get at the front lines, and that changed the way that our processing of foods was done. And I think since that point, it's become the commodization of the American people. I mean, we're essentially cattle being farmed for all of these different services to compound and rake us for money.
Okay, and I think that's a good time to bring in the rest of us.
I think that there's, like you were saying, there's so many disadvantages and ways of privilege that some people don't have access to, like transportation, healthy foods. If they struggle with their mental health or physical health for any reason, they can't get access to the same kinds of foods to stay healthy or to stay thinner. Just for medical conditions, personally, I have POTS, which makes it hard for me to exercise, and also I need a lot of salt. And when I am thinner, it's harder for me to stay hydrated, so I pass out then. But all of those reasons, it's hard for me to believe that it is a choice.
Okay, can you kind of explain what POTS is?
Yeah, POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And what that means is when your heart rate rises because your blood pools, and so then you pass out. But it's really important to stay super hydrated and have salt in your system to regulate your blood pressure.
I also have a medical condition called PCOS, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it makes it difficult to lose weight as well. I'm not blaming me being a bigger gal over that by any means. Also, one thing I cannot control is how tall I am. I'm really short, and that's also a part of this body acceptance thing. It's like, that is something that I can change with only one thing, and that's wearing heels. And it's not the most ideal way to live, but like, this is the body that I was born in, and the body that I'm so accepting of other people's bodies, but it's like accepting my own without changing so much about it. It's really difficult.
I think it all comes down to whether or not we have free will. In today's society, we don't have access to knowledge. And so a lot of us don't realize the foods that we're eating is bad. Whether or not you are eating healthy or you're eating like ramen noodles every day, we truly don't know what's in our foods. Unless you have that ability to break through that barrier of this is me, which a lot of people don't, especially in poverty. Like, we don't have access to therapy, stuff like that. Like, trauma can make a huge barrier between self-awareness and blaming the world. And so a lot of people just blame the world and they can't accept accountability, which could literally be impossible for them.
If I have somebody that I have to rely on to buy all my food and supplies, then at that point, you don't really have a choice. It's not like an 8-year-old can petition for emancipation. I mean, he's kind of stuck under the guidance and values of his parents.
Yeah, that's true.
As an adult, I guess it's different, but yeah, definitely as young children and even the teenagers, it's not as much of a choice.
What else do you think makes it not a choice for them?
Gosh, I think of like when I'm like in front of really good food, and just being like a foodie in general, like trying different restaurants. Food is how I bond with people too. Like, it's in our society. You go to a restaurant, you eat as much food until you're so stuffed you can't eat anymore. And that is how I eat almost every day. And it feels like I don't have the free will anymore. It freaking controls me. And to get up and have that same energy to go to the gym is really hard. Where I'm like, the easy thing is to do the, eating until I can't no more. And maybe that does make it a choice in a way, but I feel like I don't have the free will to make that choice.
That makes sense. Do you think a lot more people are feeling that like that too?
100%. Like, it's something that I can control. If I'm gonna choose a salad, you bet I'm gonna put a bunch of dressing on it to make it taste better. Or the burger just looks so good, like here, I absolutely am going to eat that compared to the salad. I don't feel like I have control over it, that it does not feel like a choice. It does also feel good. Like, the endorphins hit me and I'm just like freaking dopamine high. I guess I could be addicted to crack. So if my food is my addiction, which it is, I've wrote like long notes in my phone about how bad my food addiction is. Like, it doesn't feel like a choice. But there's no place to go, like food rehab. Right? It's not treated the same. It's just, you're fat and that's your choice. Get up, you lazy thing.
It's
Terrible.
the easiest coping mechanism.
Right.
Like, I remember having a bad day, like almost weekly. The thing was, I would go when it was a bad day and I would hit a Taco John's and grab, big giant grilled stuffed burrito and the pound of potato Olays, a bunch of extra seasoning, because that was like like the same feeling people describe of like having the cigarette when they've been craving it, kind of thing. Of like just that release of like, okay, it just set that calm across your whole body, kind of thing.
Can I ask you three a question that disagreed?
Yeah.
Do you guys find that sometimes it's a lack of discipline more so than a choice, which can sometimes enable you into making further bad choices? I find myself with those similar struggles on things outside of the gym. How do you guys feel about that?
There's a fine line between discipline and free will, and it all just comes down onto your neural pathways and whether or not you have the capability to rewire your brain to be like, okay, I can eat this. You can have the Taco Bell, but you have to balance it out with something. Too much of anything is an addiction. If you're constantly eating healthy food, once you get a bite of Thanksgiving turkey, you're going to overindulge. And I've experienced that myself.
Specifically with going to the gym, like that is a discipline that I highly admire in people like you. Truly. I tell myself I don't have the time. I'm doing other things. I'm working. I really don't. I don't think I would have the dedication that it takes. Going to the gym is a choice. And you guys, I'm glad that you do, but it's also like not my thing. I've tried it before and I don't have the discipline to stay consistent with it. So I think that's a good point, Gabe.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me it comes down to discipline. I've been through the points in time in my life where, I've been what you would consider 1% as far as physical condition. And I know that at this point, it is a discipline thing. Last year, my wife and I did a 90-day challenge and I lost 50 pounds in 90 days. So I know if I make the choice to do the things, good things happen. So for me, I believe it is a discipline thing, but that it can very well be my privilege. It's not, I have the means to be able to do it if I want to or choose not to. And like you said, food is a social thing for me. I have, just today, I had an all-you-can-eat buffet after a work event. I have at least 3 work meals every single week that are all-you-can-eat buffets, because that's our culture. Like I'm constantly working with people. It's just part of my job to ensuring other people having meals and enjoying themselves. And food is also like my art form. Like I have a commercial kitchen in my home because I just love to experiment with food, like making all kinds of homemade things. The pandemic was an awesome time because we got to make so many homemade things. I just love to deal with food. And so I've always had a problem with weight because, yeah.
I just think back to like access and like how you were talking about how sometimes there are folks that are privileged and can access those kinds of things. But for me and how I grew up, I know that like we didn't always have a ride to the food pantry. And even if we did, the food pantry doesn't offer nutritious food a lot of the times. Also, not only transportation, there is that mental block. There's also physical blocks if you are differently abled and not able to make it to the gym or make it to the store. All of those things are really prevalent in the back of my mind because I've experienced a lot of those things. And so I think it's really important for me at least to remember where I come from and then also the privilege I have today to make more choices than I ever could.
I totally get the access because it seems like healthy food is the most expensive anytime you go to the grocery store. And so, I totally understand the access point. I just want to go back. I mentioned before I wrestled my whole life. I was not a healthy eater. Try telling a 13-year-old he can't have, a cookie tonight or anything like that. And so, when I was going to high school too, for lunch, I was eating an Uncrustable and I'd always get like a chocolate chip cookie. And so, it's possible. Like I said before, as long as, you're not, you're burning more calories than you consume, you're going to lose weight. So at the end of the day, I always think it's a choice. And it's not even like going to the gym. If you consume a lot of calories during the day and you're like, man, I'm stuffed, I need to go burn a couple calories, you could just go for a walk. Go outside, go for a run, and you would lose weight. And so, I'm still on the side where I believe it's a choice.
Again, barring medical conditions, every nutritionist I've ever spoken with has always said it really is as simple as how it's being put. I don't say that to cast in negativity, but more so to just spread like, hey, it is possible. And I don't want to enable anybody's mind to think that it can't be done. More as a real positivity thing, like you absolutely can do it. And I'll accept that it's certainly harder for some folks, but possible.
Kind of going back to some of the talk about children and stuff earlier, we've made a really conscious decision to make sure that our children are a lot more educated about food and, they understand right now, like, hey, what you're eating, it's not really healthy. And so they are making the conscious choice and they understand that right now at their age, their metabolism is allowing them to get away with the things that they're doing. We've also seen one of our children very much struggle with their own body acceptance a lot and have a hard time with that, with a lot of bullying and issues and stuff. And so watching them go through that and, we've helped educate them and they've helped improve themselves in ways that they wanted to. I feel a lot more empowered now with everything I have access to, speaking to what you said about knowledge earlier, I was a kid I was born in '85, so a lot of the stuff coming out back then was new. A lot of these packaged foods were, just coming out with a lot of the newest, fanciest oils and all the other nonsense that they have in them now. And so, I feel like as a parent now, we do have that choice a lot more to actually educate ourselves if we want to. But the problem is there's not a good way to determine if the data is actually factual nowadays. You can go out there and find actually absolutely contradictory sources from fully highly credentialed, PhD level, completely contradicting in the nutrition space. And so it's really difficult to put the onus on people again when you have a system that is designed to confuse and designed to try and keep people addicted at the end of the day. It's like so many of our other vice systems, food has become another vice system in our country.
So as someone I just graduated in 23 of high school, and as someone who's worked in elementary schools, I see how obesity has overtaken the system. When I was in elementary school, we did not have snack time. They have snack time. Multiple times a day, they get to bring their own snacks. And so I see the way that these kids treat each other, and I see the way that they look at food. Being in school too, it's such a structured system. And so when you get the ability to take a break, you overindulge. And so that's just the way our system in America, in the United States, is set up and how it's been set up since the schools were established. And I find it hard to say that we have free will to be skinny or be fat, because a lot of parents don't know how to parent their children due to the lack of knowledge, and they choose to shut them up with food.
Fitness can become an unhealthy obsession. As always, we'll have the people that agree come up now.
I know for me, my personal experience, I have struggled with an eating disorder before, and when I was struggling with that, I know that I was eating, we were just talking about like calories in, calories out. I know I was eating less calories than I was exercising out. So I would eat like 300 calories and then I'd burn off 400. And so exercise was a really unhealthy obsession for me at that time. And I know that a lot of things influenced me, such as like social media and the internet and things like the inspiration and pro-Anna and pro-Mia sites. But that's what made me think that exercise was the only way to lose weight and the only way to become what I wanted to be.
I don't know if my mom will appreciate me talking about this, but my mom used to be a weight loss and fitness coach. It consumed a lot of her life for like the early 2010s when it was really popular to be in that sort of thing. And it affected me a lot more as a kid, watching her like obsess over working out every single day and how much weight she was losing. And I was just like really hurt by a lot of it, actually. Just like it's affecting the people around you, especially your kids. It was like, I can't do something right now, or I can't do this because I have to put in my workout. And it's like putting the people that you love on the back burner because of something else, like going to the gym or working out.
Yeah, I think for me, I usually think to sports, and then for work-related things, whether that's like modeling or military stuff or whatever. I think people can go to some very unhealthy extremes and become obsessed with it when trying to reach some of these goals, and then it can, I think some of it can go back into some of the mental health with body dysmorphia, where you can have people that have very unrealistic ideals, and you see people with implants that are drastically changing their body, because they're obsessed with not just the fitness but also the look. And so it's a lot of that internet and what you're talking about with how that culture has been influencing much more and more. And growing up a lot younger, that was not something that we were exposed to, really in the 80s and 90s. You would have a curated image, and you'd have like MTV and things like that where there was that, but it wasn't exposed and in your face and from uncurated sources and people that are your age but from all kinds of different walks of life. There's not a filter on that, and I think that's how people can get so obsessed with it, because they just have all the access.
So like you said about modeling, I started modeling about 2 years ago. And when I first came in, she was like, we measured myself and, you know, that was all cool. And I personally, I see myself as a pretty fit woman. I have been my entire life. I've been this weight for a reasonable amount of time. She measured me and she was like, you're a plus size model. And for a really long time, that kind of just weighed on my conscience. And so I would overly obsess, hitting 5 days at the gym, you know, calorie deficit, all of that. My hair started falling out. I started noticing my skin was breaking out, all of these things. And then again, like I would not be spending time doing the things I wanted to do because I was consumed in being skinny. But then I was just like, girl, you look fine. And I think a lot of people don't think that way. But my mom raised me to be a very, very disciplined woman and to see all aspects of life. And I am so blessed to be able to look at myself and truly love myself, but a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and so it continues to be an addiction.
You guys mentioned a good point over there about how detrimental it can be to your family life if it's all you focus on. I wasn't even thinking about that at first, but that definitely can be true. I guess I was kind of leaning towards the rich pianas of people that take things too far, ingest their bodies, and then ultimately it takes their life. At that point, yeah, it's certainly an obsession that's gone too far. Social media might have a big impact where it'll make someone feel a certain way. People start to inject their bodies with performance-enhancing drugs, things they don't really know what they're putting in their body. It might be some backwoods bathtub concoction that somebody makes, all in hopes to, you know, add to that workout just because they think it's going to make them that much better. I feel like there's a certain time last year where I just kept seeing name after name of influencer that, you know, dying, going to the hospital. I mean, I feel like for several months in a row, I saw like 4 or 5 people die. Their heart starts to explode.
Yeah, well, I think that we covered kind of all the range on that, so I guess the time would be now to bring in one disagreeer. So,
After everything that was said, I mean, I pretty much agree with, you know, I kind of agree with the topic now, but
well, could you maybe give us maybe what you were thinking originally when you're thinking like, okay, maybe it can't be unhealthy. Like, what were you thinking?
The thing that I was thinking of is, I mean, just the fitness part. I feel like a lot of the things that were said might stem from other things. I mean, maybe like mental problems and stuff like that. Or like people were saying social media, I think it could stem from that. I mean, there was a point in my life where I was addicted to going to the gym every day. Like it was the only thing I looked forward to with my day, and I wanted to go twice a day, 3 times a day, as much as I could. And at that point in my life, I felt better than I ever have. And so, I mean, I was addicted to it and I felt great. And thankfully, I never, you know, wanted to get bigger, wanted to get stronger, wanted to hop on tests or anything like that and, you know, ruin my life. Things you guys were saying maybe stem from something else. Maybe there's some deeper problems that are going on rather than just fitness and somebody going to the gym caused all these problems.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think it's more the fitness itself or the external factors?
I'd say probably more of the external stuff. You're using fitness as a coping mechanism a lot of times to treat whatever it is or try and achieve whatever goal it is, or, you know, that kind of thing. And then a lot of the substance stuff, like it comes in as, again, not because somebody's a user, but again, because they're just addicted to trying to achieve whatever it is. I don't know, maybe just in your case, it was fitness only, or was the fitness like because you were like, okay, now as a wrestler, I feel the best that I ever have, that I'm going to the gym 3 times, you know, or was it just like purely because I'm hitting the gym that it was?
At the point when I started hitting the gym more, it was kind of just purely just to hit the gym. I mean, I was going with my brother and stuff like that, so I mean, had somebody to hang out with. And then eventually I started noticing changes, and so I just wanted to keep lifting. It was exciting to me at that point. Okay,
those changes, was that just physical changes, or was it also changing the way you interacted with the world and the way people interacted with you?
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, the physical changes, of course, that's, I mean, what a lot of people look for, but I mean, it kind of gave me more confidence, made me feel like, you know, if I did nothing during the day but hit the gym, that I accomplished, you know, something during that day. So, I mean, gave me a lot of rewards going to the gym.
I think it has a lot to do with your gender as well, because men can handle like higher cortisol levels and women, we can't. Like, we're meant to have a little bit of fat on our body because, you know, when in prehistoric times, we were the ones staying in the caves, protecting our children with our weight. And so we would be the ones eating mass amounts of foods. And so when we're constantly raising our cortisol levels, that is just very unhealthy to us, to our brain levels, to our every single nutrient in our body. Like men, you guys can take it, nothing against you guys, but you guys can take it. And I think a lot of people that start their fitness journeys don't know that there is a difference biologically between women and men and how much we can take. So at first I was going 5 days a week, and like you said, it would give me something to look forward to, and I felt rewarded even when I would do nothing. But it affects our bodies a lot differently, as well as, you know, cold plunges and stuff, like just simple things that like add to the fitness journey. Like women can't do so much of that. And I wish it was like more known that we are not supposed to be putting ourselves through that. But yeah, we just can't handle that.
You said that you started to notice weren't doing anything else for the day, but you went to the gym, that you still felt good about it. Mm-hmm. At what point of you lacking on your other responsibilities, but you're only going to the gym, do you think it would still be acceptable, or would you start to dog on yourself?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And, you know, I guess at that point in my life, I was just a high school student, you know, so I didn't really have that much responsibilities to really care about. Sure. Or I was in college, you know, and so, I mean, college life, stuff like that, you don't really care about all that other stuff. So, I mean, it didn't affect me that much. But in this point in my life, yeah, if I was on that same, you know, kind of wavelength and going to the gym, not caring about anything else, I think that would definitely take much more of a mental toll on me. So I definitely see what you're saying. Yeah.
Fit people are more attractive than plus size people. We'll start by having everyone that agrees come up now. But I mean, obviously this is a personal preference and opinion question. What makes fit people more attractive than plus size people?
Definitely, I have had friends that like women on the plus side. I've had friends that like women that, to me, look, you know, really small. One aspect other than just the looks alone is I think hard work is really attractive, and I think that most people find people that work hard is a really attractive trait. Whether you're a doctor, a pilot, you're a cop, if someone sees you're working hard, that's a super attractive quality to me, and that really is shown on the way you take care of yourself. I've seen plenty of people that are not fit, they're not fat, they're just kind of a normal person, but they don't really have any other day-to-day activities where they have hard work. And I think the body is a really good, very first sight you get to see how hard does this person work. And I think that trait of just hard work is super attractive.
Well, I mean, I think you need to take that hard work may not always present in a physical form, and so I know people that are doing very hard work, but it just isn't hard from a physical labor standpoint. But beyond that, I think the first thing we need to do is point out that it's all men up here that agree with this one. Like, I think we have to point that elephant out immediately and say that you know, that's probably something that's societally related. You know, that we grow up, like you said, talking with your friends, some that prefer this, some that prefer that. But I think our friends, especially in sports and things like that, locker room talk, I think there's a lot of pressure on men to have a girlfriend that is conventionally attractive according to whatever the beauty standards are at the time. You know, like, I know that's how I was when I was a kid. I would assume that's how it is. And so, you know, you have a lot of men kind of brought into this system, indoctrinated into this mindset of like, I got to do this almost like a keeping up with the Joneses. My buddies are going to think of me, you know, a certain way if my girlfriend doesn't look a certain way. And so then they condition themselves to think. And then also society's constantly pushing that at us. You know, you don't have different body types shown in different ways. You know, there's very few people over time that have ever broken into the very famous industry that weren't of a conventional beauty standard because they're just shut out. They don't get the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like he was saying, I got friends, you know, who their standard or whatever, you know, what they're looking for is just like really extreme, really skinny, and then friends on the other side who, you know, prefer plus size. But for me personally, it's, you know, just someone I can relate to. So, you know, my girlfriend, she lifts, and we like to lift together. And so it's just something I like to do with her, and she likes to do with me. And so just something I look for. and something I enjoy.
Yeah, it's like a bond for you. You're saying it lies a lot in the bonding aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
And the similarity. It's like a strong pillar of your relationship.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I can say, you know, with my wife, I've been together with my wife for 19 years. So I've known my wife at a range from, you know, like 120 pounds to almost 200 pounds. And, you know, so like I know that physically, like I have different ranges of where I feel levels of physical attraction with her. And we've had those conversations, and she's said the same with me, that, you know, when I've had more weight on, that she's been less physically attracted to me, you know, and it's just something that we understand, that really, like you were saying, the bonding, it's the true attraction isn't about what we look like. You know, eventually we're going to be old and wrinkly at the end of the day. It's about what kind of a connection do you have with that person is really what attraction is about. And I think that's why probably it's also more men up here right now, is because men are conditioned to not as often have that kind of a bond and have that desire to form that bond in that same way, where women, the way that they bond with their friends is much more emotionally connected, whereas with men it's much more physical, it's much more sports and outdoor activities, and you know, it's not as intimate of a bonding situation.
Yeah, I would say probably the most like judgmental people of a young man is another young man, you know?
True.
But I think it's a good time to bring up the rest of us. I guess the real question is, does the size of someone's body have any pull on the amount of attraction you guys have for people?
It does not. I've never been attracted to a particular body type, but my boyfriend is plus size. We've been together 4 years in November, and he is the first person to ever truly look at me and find me attractive, truly. And that's something that I think everyone deserves, no matter what your size is. And it's really a good point that you had brought up, that, honey, we're gonna age. You're gonna have wives with babies that are going to be bigger. And what if like they can't lose the weight? What if they're not fit enough for you? You're just going to stop loving them? That's extremely sad. And because you're attracted to someone, like, I'm not saying people can't have preferences, because obviously everyone has their preferences, but it's sad that someone wouldn't look at maybe someone like me and be like, I wouldn't be willing to give her a chance because of the way that she looks and not who I am as a person. And that sucks, because like people wouldn't even get the chance to know me before counting me out, which is terrible. And I think a lot of people feel that way. A lot of big people feel that way. Like, how am I deserving of love when all of the men just sat down here and said, I'm not attracted to a particular body type? That sucks.
Think that someone plus size could be attractive in your head?
I think it depends on every woman.
Okay, fair.
I don't think every woman has to have a snatched waist. This is going to sound very shallow amongst the boys, if we're getting truthful. If a girl has a nice waist to butt and hips ratio, I still find it very attractive. It doesn't have to be 23-inch waist and whatever. There's variations of what I'd find attractive, for sure.
Okay, well, I just want to keep following up with the people that disagreed. What's your take on it?
I also don't have a preference of body type. I'm very fluid in my dating preferences, and I'm very emotionally invested in the people that I date. So for me, it's a lot about if we have a lot of common hobbies or common interests, not necessarily if we have a common body type.
Like, say you're watching a movie, right? Baywatch, Zac Efron, right? Like one of the most shredded I think anyone's ever been in a movie on camera. Does that make any difference to you, seeing that versus someone that, I don't know, I guess was plus size? No difference at all.
No.
Yeah, whoever. I mean,
I guess, like, if I have a preference at all, my celebrity crush is Luke Combs, which is a plus-size gentleman, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, that makes a very clear point of what I was asking. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I got a question for you guys. So if you like went into a bar or something like that, what would make you go up to a person and talk to them?
Wanting to talk to someone. Like I've been shut down too many times that I won't ever do it anymore.
Right.
I'm glad that I found my person, because I've been told no enough that I'm like, just swiping on Tinder was what did it for me in college. It's the only thing that really caught me through in dating at all. But I maybe they look kind, they look nice. Something catches my eye, like a smile or like a sparkle in their eye, not their body type. It's not the first thing I'm paying attention to.
I can see that. I've seen plenty of women that have great bodies, but they just have a nasty, mean attitude you can tell off their face.
Right.
You're like, I can tell I wouldn't really like talking to you.
Right.
Personally, I don't think I've really ever looked at anyone I was attracted to and been only attracted to them based on their body type, unless they were a woman. And I've never dated anyone based on their body type. But when you look at Ashley Graham too, she's a plus size Victoria's Secret model. Beautiful. We see all of these models who are plus size technically, but they look different as well. They still have curves and stuff. So I really do feel like it's based off of genetics. And I personally am a personality person. I've never, I never dated anybody based on how they look. But as well as if we don't have things in common, like now that I am very disciplined and I go to the gym, if someone has negative habits and they don't go to the gym, that's when I would find them unattractive. But if they don't go to the gym and they're taking care of themselves, like I don't really see how that could impact me personally.
Why do you think for so long there weren't as many, you said there's very few people plus size that have broken into industries like that earlier. Why do you guys think that is?
Afraid of hurting feelings. I feel like that's where we've gone as society, is we're afraid of, offending somebody. And, I mean, I'm all for, I don't think anybody should be, made fun of, picked on, anything like that, or judged without getting to know them. But at the same time, I feel like, everything we do, it should be for future generations. And so with the body acceptance, it's like you're blasting these commercials and you're showing, all this stuff, and it's like, how is this affecting the kids? And so we want our kids to, grow up healthy lifestyles so they can live long. And so I feel like it could be, maybe a negative impact, and, making sure that kids understand having a healthy lifestyle. Like she was saying earlier, how we might not have access to this information, and it's like once we take it away, then nobody knows.
I don't think it's truly because the industry has empathy. I think it's because a lot of the laws that are coming into place are now making them put more people, especially people of color too, into these roles.
Why were they kept out for so long? Not why are they getting introduced, but like why do you think they were kept out for so long? Like having plus size representation in media? Because
there were European ideal beauty standards that they wanted everyone to look like. So like going back to what you're saying, now they have to include like the diversity hires or whatever, because they never thought about those people before. Like they never thought about fat people, they never thought about people of color. They thought about the people that were the majority or they thought looked the best. So they included those people. Like that's why it's been so long without a lot of inclusion, because they didn't like how the other people looked.
I don't think it's necessarily only because they didn't like about how they looked. Being in the modeling industry too, a lot of the clothes that they make are specialized for one size. And so if you don't fit these measurements, you're out. And so for a long time, it was just, you had to fit, 24, 22, whatever. And if you didn't fit those, you wouldn't even be able to wear our clothes. As well as they taught us that Europeans are the majority, which with percentage, they're not. It's really just about money and power. Who has the availability to buy these clothes like Prada and Mugler and all of these things? It's people who, it goes back to slave times, who has old money, and that's Europeans.
Well, it's exactly that. It's money. I mean, it's a capitalist society. So why have they been kept out before? Because they didn't feel that there was a monetary gain to include them. Now they do. Now they feel the
there is.
pushback. Now people have the ability to stand up and make their voices heard, and they're hearing people saying that they want to see that representation, that they want to see clothes on models that look like them in stores, not clothes that look like European beauty standard in stores that don't actually give them a realistic picture of what they're going to see. Like, people want to feel seen, and they feel seen when they see people that are like them, that they feel that they can relate to. Realize that it's a monetary gain at this point to put that in there. Like, I don't think they're, like you said, it's not that they have empathy. It's that they realize they can make more money and get us to be their better little consumers if they give us a little bit of what we want sometimes.
In royalty times, a lot of the symbols of wealth was bigger people. It's just such a double standard. I don't know when we switched to, you have money, you're skinny. Because if you look at Greek statues, they were thick women. And now we're seeing the complete opposite. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I think that's an interesting topic that we have to consider.
There are also entire stores dedicated to women built like me. I can only find like a bra really that'll fit me at Torrey, which is a plus size women's store, because it's not exactly made for me until I go to a place that is, and I'm like, fine, they'll get my business. And then because they realized that they could capitalize on people who were bigger, and that fashion in general wasn't made for larger bodies, they decided, well, we know where we could put our money into getting fashion and like models that are plus size wearing these clothes too. Just because I'm bigger doesn't mean that I shouldn't also look nice or like spend nice money on my clothes. I also wanted to make a point of the very first thing that was said over here during this prompt is that people that do not go to the gym or have like a healthy lifestyle are lazy. So far from beyond what I actually live. I work a lot. I put a lot of time and energy into the career that I have. And to think that someone can take a look at me from across the room and say she's lazy because of the way that I look is so sad. It's truly so sad, because I work a lot and I do a lot of things that pertain to me, my relationship, and my family, including fostering 2 children. Like, that's crazy that someone would just take a look at me from a glance and say she's lazy. I'm mad at that. It's so sad that society has brought us here.
You have to separate those aspects of your life into boxes. Fostering children, I'm lazy, I don't do that, I don't help with that. That's certainly something that someone said to Gabe, you're lazy at that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Working a lot, not making time. I work 14-hour days and I still manage to go to the gym. I work, it'll take a toll on my sleep sometimes, sure, but I have to be willing to take accountability and say, well, I was lazy at this. I think the people that don't go to the gym have to be willing to take accountability and say, I was lazy at the gym today. Did I go? Doesn't mean your entire life is lazy. Doesn't mean that it'll take away from those other aspects. But we do have to be willing to take accountability and say, I did these good things. You mentioned earlier I did these things. You would have to take accountability and say, I was lazy about my fitness today. The same way you have to take accountability from yourself and say, I was lazy about my other responsibilities today.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, interestingly, when you look at someone and you're like, okay, do you actually sit there and think, this person's lazy about the gym or this person's lazy? What do you think in your head?
I guess I really do think gym, but I do see why other people, like I said earlier, it's a visual representation of who you are as a person.
Yeah, like that one's easier to call out versus like, Gabe, you're pretty lazy fostering kids. Like, how would I ever know that, right?
Exactly, you wouldn't, but that doesn't mean that I couldn't be lazy in those aspects. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I couldn't be lazy in family time or my other commitments that I talk to people.
The word fat is offensive. Start by having the people that agree come up now. The word fat, what about it makes it offensive to you guys?
It is the word that was ever first used to me to describe me in a negative way as a kid. And that's just kind of always stuck with me. I haven't taken it and twisted it into like a positive where you can describe me as fat and I won't see that as offensive, because I do. Like, the first thing that you should use to describe somebody shouldn't be fat or thin at all. And it again just sucks that the word fat is used in such a negative connotation that I find it offensive. Absolutely. But thin isn't used in the same way.
It isn't. Yeah, you're saying like if I was fishing, I was like, oh, like that's a fat bass. Like somebody would be like, heck yeah. Or if I'm like, that's a real thin bass, they'd be like, man, that ain't. But then when it comes to like humans, it's the context. It's always given with a negative connotation, huh?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, and what do you think?
Initially, I thought of like our humor, and I think as humans, we bond with humor. One of the first like jokes that I heard when I was younger and that we used to say all the time on the bus is, yo mama's so fat, whatever. And I like would be like, before we play this game, y'all better not say that. Cause my mom, she's overweight. Everyone in my family is. So I've grown up, that's the immediate target, and those are fighting words. And so I don't think it's just a word. I think it's what surrounds it. And I think as kids, like, we're automatically taught that we can make jokes out of people and we can use other people, and regardless of their circumstances, other people's looks as a way of leverage to make the room laugh. And I just think that we need to think about humor in a different way, you know?
And it really does just bring me back to my childhood. I realize that this is not therapy, but it brings me back to like the first time someone was ever mean to me on a playground. It was because I was a chunky third grader and they called me fat. And it really did stick with me. It's so incredibly unkind. And today as a society, we have got to be kinder to each other. And it may not be offensive to somebody else, but you should be well aware of your surroundings and who you're speaking to saying that word, because people do use it as humor.
That makes sense. Now that we know kind of where we stand with it, I think it's a good time to bring people that disagree up now.
To me personally, I mean, the fact that we can, use the word and call other things fat makes the word itself not offensive. I think we can all agree, depending on how a person uses the word, it can become offensive. And I feel like that can be said for a lot of words out there. But I feel like the fact, like you were saying, you could say a cat's fat, you could say, a lot of things are fat, and that word is not offensive. I feel like it's just the way you use it.
I think, like you said, though, with it being humans, I think there's a difference there because, like you said, people have feelings. And, like me personally, yeah, I don't find it offensive, but I don't find anything offensive. And so that I have to understand is a me thing, not an everyone thing. So I don't use it because I understand that general societal norm is it's offensive. I understand that. But for me personally, it's not. I don't care. If you call me fat, yeah, I probably am. Yeah, I make good food. Shit happens.
I know for me, the word fat is not offensive unless it's directed as a slur. For me, I know a lot of fat folks in my sphere like to reclaim the word fat instead of using words like morbid or obese. They prefer the word fat, and I prefer the word fat because it describes what I am, not a category that doctors are putting me in to describe how sick I am. I know that there's a new movement going around in the body acceptance sphere that is called fatagories, and what it describes is the different levels of privilege you have based on how fat you are. And so there's things like small fat, mid fat, super fat, and death fat. And death fat was coined in 2008 to describe folks that are so overweight that they're at risk of dying. And so this is a way that we're reclaiming words such as the word queer, how queer used to be used very derogatory as a slur for LGBTQ folks, but now we're saying and identifying as queer to reclaim that word. So that's how I feel about if it's offensive or not.
I have a question. Can you tell me what category of fat I fit in?
So it's based on your shirt size.
Okay.
So if you are a 1 or 2X, you are small fat. 3 to 4X, you are mid fat. 5 to 6X, you are super fat. So that base is based on what level of privilege you have in the world. So someone in a small fat category may not struggle getting on an airplane, but someone in a mid-fat or super fat may not be able to use even the airplane extender. So that's where that comes in, and like the privilege levels of like what fat means to different people.
You think something interesting, like you said privilege, right? Like, so if somebody is less fat, then them being able to get onto an airplane is a privilege, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you guys think of that?
You know, a lot of things in life are privileges, and with being overweight, in my opinion, I think that's something you can control yourself. So if you feel like you're deprived of this privilege, you can change yourself to enjoy that privilege.
At death fat, are people? Is this like what I see on shows, like where people can't walk or things like that?
Typically, it's over a 6X.
Okay.
So it is where people maybe couldn't walk, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't take care of themselves. And so that's where you lose that privilege of being able to care for yourself. And that's why you're in the category of death fat, because you are at risk of dying because of your weight.
I feel like when you see the show, like with people that are quote unquote death fat, do you have any knowledge on how people end up at death fat? Like, is it usually a health thing, or is it, because I feel like I haven't really seen very many people in my life that are at that. You know, it's just sensationalized. Like, could it be related to trauma, something like that?
Absolutely. I think that for me, I can only speak from my own experience, but the reason why I'm fat is related to trauma, related to medical issues. It's related to mental health struggles. It's related to access. It's related to a lot of different things, and could put me in the category of one day being death fat, but I'm trying my best to like become a better person and like have a better mentality and stuff like that. So yeah, I think anyone in one day could end up death fat. It's just these experiences you go through and what type of toll that takes on you.
Part of you has to wonder if we're trying to create the society from WALL-E at times with how easy we make it for people to access things, though. Like, that's, you say you don't see people that are death fat. Well, that's because now we have DoorDash and Uber Eats and every other service under the sun. A lot of that was accelerated by the pandemic and being forced to stay at home. People can get everything delivered directly to them now. There isn't that requirement to go out and get it, and so you don't see people that much anymore. And a lot of them may make the choice of like, I don't want to go out because, there's that trauma associated with what if XYZ happens when I'm out because of, my size, and then now, that size becomes the center of attention. Because I think when you're talking about how does somebody get to that point, I think the only way you get to that point is if there's some kind of a mental illness happening for some reason, whatever that is. Like, you don't get there without having, I would think, almost like a desire to hurt yourself. Been through some kind of trauma that has you feeling unworthy of something, or like that is the way that you cope with things. Like, there has to be some kind of underlying something that could push you to that point. I don't think you're going to get to that point unless you are really struggling with something and need professional services. And I think that's we need to just do better with, period, as a country, is professional services for mental health. And, I think it helped with a lot of things.
And physical health as well. There are folks that may have something like lymphedema where they cannot move, can't get out of the house, or agoraphobia, which is a mental illness, but it's another reason why people just can't get out and can't move, can't go to the doctor or anything like that. So I think all of those are different reasons why people end up in that category.
You mentioned, I guess this might not be a term, but the death fit category. You mentioned people that inject themselves, take things to the next level. That has to be fueled by something similar, right? If it's on the same parallel, it's just going to a complete other extreme. You think that's maybe people that end up doing things like that and end up suffering, fatalities from that? You think they have something similar, trauma-based going on?
Obviously, I'm not a medical professional, but I have heard of the My 600 Pound Life, people like that. Watching those shows, I've heard people mention it's a mental thing, and you have some mental issue that's driving you just to nonstop eating. Similarly with the over-obsessive fit people, they have body dysmorphia was mentioned. Those things are also really negative when you're pushed to that limit. And death fit can absolutely be a thing.
I put myself in some risky situations. And when you're talking about death fit, I went on multiple steroid cycles to try and, ascertain certain goals, both in attracting the female gaze as well as mainly trying to ascertain certain fitness levels for what I was doing with the military. And it felt like it was, kind of accepted or almost celebrated by the culture. I was doing it at a time where, this was like 2005 to 2007. And so I'm ordering things online from Eastern European places that are, being shipped through mail in weird packaging. And, I'm taking anabolic steroids and I'm taking, different estrogen blockers, and I'm taking histamines and different things to try and cut weight, and doing all sorts of things to try and achieve what I thought I needed to achieve. There is a little bit of like maybe a mental thing there of me, having such a desire and such a belief that that's who I needed to be, that I had to, the risks that I was putting my body through were worth it. Like I remember during certain steroid cycles where being in a lift and feeling like I was about to tear the skin on my arm because of the amount of extra pump that I was feeling through the muscles during it. And that's part of why I don't like the gym now, because I have a lot of trauma with the gym of like how much it was like at one point it was threatening my career. Like I had to get to like try and get myself to a place. I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, so we had a lot of higher expectations, as far as what we had for physical standards. I felt like I had to do this or I'm going to lose my job, and I would rather hurt myself to keep my job and keep things for my family, because, you're a single income earner, 23-year-old parent, 22, I guess, when he was born. You just have to do the things that you have to do. This was all things leading up to when I met my wife. It was all things for me to like initially pass the test. So I got in a program where like I had a 6-month window before I was actually gonna have to pass it. And so then during that 6-month window, that's when I was doing all these things to try and reach this goal at the end, to, get through this hurdle, to actually get through all the physical requirements to get there. And yeah, just put myself through a lot of danger because I thought that's what I needed to do.
To kind of go back to that main prompt, when I'm reading an ingredients list and I say trans fat, saturated fat, nobody stops me and says, whoa, you can't say that. I said the word fat, but nobody, if I say some racial slur, anyone's gonna say, whoa, it's messed up. But if I read those without malice, no problem. I work contract security. Someone comes on to a property they're not supposed to be, and they say, who was it? What's he look like? I say, it was a white dude, fat guy, he's going northeast. Nobody stops me and says, whoa, we can't say those things. It's just a descriptor. But if I said something like, oh, dude, I hate that guy, what a fat piece. We all know, well, he's intending to hurt that guy. So there's many situations where the word fat has no malice. It doesn't mean anything negative. It's only what we're implying that's negative.
I am satisfied with my body right now. We'll start by having everyone that agrees come up now. I guess the only way I can go about this is just saying, what do you love? Why are you satisfied with your body?
Growing up with body dysmorphia and only being seen for my body put me through mental turmoil for so long, being obsessed with the idea of being fit or having a big butt or having a small waist. And then I am so blessed to be able to have an open mind and see I'm literally fine right now. I can choose to be happy right now. And if I end up, getting bigger muscles in the future, I'm okay with that. But for right now, I'm happy where I am, and I don't need to be this or to be that to feel satisfied with who I am right now.
Okay. I guess that's a good time to bring in everybody else. Has there been a point where anybody here was ever satisfied with where their body was, or has it just been a continuous thing forever?
Yeah, for me, it's been a continuous thing. I'm definitely not as fit as I was in the past, but even when I was like in my best shape, I still felt like I could be a little bit better. And it could be a bad thing, it could be a good thing. At the same time, I think once you become comfortable in something, that's when you stop improving. And so to me, it's always good to be uncomfortable.
I think for me, it's probably just been that struggle of just always you know, having issues with how I look, never feeling comfortable in my own skin. I've been super athletic, you know, played all the sports, done the high-end Army things, you know, been able to do crazy stuff. And then I've been really obese. And I don't think at any point in time I was ever happy, but I don't think that it correlated either. So I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with weight. I think that conversations like this, where we sit down and we force these subjects out, I think these were probably something that were much more common among people years ago, when we didn't have our devices in our hands to be able to talk to each other instantaneously. Like, we actually would sit around and have a drink after dinner and, you know, have these conversations and actually go deep on things, and, you know. And
probably since the 3rd grade, I have never been comfortable with my body. And now that I have, you know, big girl adult money, I'm doing things to change myself into a way that I think like I will feel my best. And there was never like an appropriate time where this was going to come up, or I thought maybe it would earlier, and I don't want to feel like I'm hiding it from anyone watching, but I've been on a weight loss GLP-1 medication for the last 2 years. I've been on like a semaglutide blend from a med spa here in Omaha, and I've lost 60 pounds. And I am happy with that because I feel better, like my back doesn't hurt, which I appreciate. One of the most vulnerable things that someone can talk about is their weight and how it makes you feel. I'm worried that I will never be satisfied. Like, I've done the laser hair removal to get rid of my dark hair. I'm on a weight loss medication to make myself look thinner. Also, it makes me feel better. And like, I pay for these things with my own money that I work very hard for. So it's hard to be on the body acceptance side when I'm so accepting of other people's bodies. Like, just because it's not the first thing I notice about somebody at all. Like, I truly just think the best things about people are what's on the inside. And I wish I could see that a little bit more in myself. Again, I probably need therapy, but I wanted to be honest with you guys because I have been losing weight for about 2 years now on a Ozempic blend.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting for me because, like you said, like, I will be the first person to accept anyone as they are and not focus on someone's body. But for me, it's not necessarily that I don't love my body or anything like that. It's that I struggle with like the happiness, being happy with my body. I think it's fine for me to accept my body and be neutral without having to be positive about it. So that's where I disagree with that. I feel neutral about my body, and that's okay for me.
I think it's Terry Crews said it best, happy, never satisfied. I like that mentality personally. I've changed my happiness. It no longer comes from my body, but the work I'm putting in. Like, am I at least trying? Am I at least putting the effort in? Can I be happy with that? And yeah, I can. Do I make my weight? No, but am I trying? I am trying. So my happiness is more derived from that. Satisfied? No, I'm not satisfied. But I'll also never be satisfied, and I'm okay with that because I know that's what's going to keep me driving, pushing to achieve more, and I take that aspect to every other aspect of my life too.
This has been another episode of Counterpoint. I want to thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you guys think. We have a comment section below. Tell us what episodes you want to see next. And there's a casting link in the description to this video. Until next time, this has been Counterpoint. What did you say? Yeah. And wait. What did you say?
subscribe.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good ending. All right, bet.
Good job, guys.
Great job, everyone.